Pretty much. I'm clearly snooting. So I will let you continue your little speech to everybody because Lord knows there's more important things to do than everyone listening to me.
The county chair and early support are very grateful to us. I'm very impressed here. About last week when I abandoned the campaign, but I thought it was going to be a week-long filibuster. It turned out that it only took 11 hours, but to convince, unfortunately, Democrats. I'd love to tell you it was just the Republicans on the other side, but unfortunately it was Democrats who set up these committees and provided the retroactive immunity to the telephone companies for having listened in to all of our phone conversations, emails, and faxes over a 5-year period without a court order. And as I promised a year ago, the next time the Bush administration tried or someone in Congress legislatively to assault the Constitution, I'd go back and spend as long as I had to defeat them. The good news, the bad news is it comes back again next month. The same legislation will be back up on the floor of the United States Senate later in January. And this time I hope I might get some of these other senators who are running for president to come on back. We can make it back for the farm bill. We all know the value in Iowa being there for the farm bill. And I don't think anyone ought to be applauded for doing what I took an oath to do, and that is to defend and protect the Constitution of the United States. And after 6 years of literally day-by-day assault on it here, you're supposed to do that. If the farm bill is important, the Constitution is important. So I'm hopeful that these other candidates seeking the presidential nomination will find the time and effort to come back and be there as well. It'll be a lot easier to defend that. Here we have more people standing with you, obviously. 11 days, that's 11 days, I'm losing track, but January 3rd is 10 or 11 days from today. Iowans obviously have a lot to decide, your big decision, stepping forward, really the glare of the world and beyond the state, and making the decision here as to who goes forward, New Hampshire, South Carolina, these other states, to seek, be able to further seek the nomination, and hopefully win that nomination, and most importantly, win the election on the 4th of November next year, and try and get our country heading back in the right direction. What I've been trying to say to people about these issues, including the one last week here, if people are sort of cramming here for these house parties and town hall meetings here, what is important, I think, and I always feel is important, is not only to give good speeches about where you want to take the country, but I think people want to know where you've been. A very legitimate question. I'm often somewhat amazed that we'll actually flirt with the idea that we'll nominate or elect people with actually no experience or record in the back. We just have to give a good speech and we go from there. We wouldn't hire anyone to remodel a kitchen at home or extract a tooth if we didn't ask a simple question. Have you ever tried this before? We've done this with the presidency. We see the idea that that's really not important here. And so I offer for your consideration and thought, I hope over the coming days, that in addition to telling you what I'd like to do as President of the United States, what I've tried to do and accomplished over the last quarter of a century, I think we may have discussed it the last time, in almost any previous election, and I stood before you and I said, give me your consideration. I've just spent 26 years in the United States Senate. That was almost a disqualifier, that line. I sort of wanted to move away from anybody that had spent any time trying to deal with these issues. But I think having been through 6 years of incompetency at best here, and a failure to understand the responsibility of the office involved, that experience is beginning to reemerge as an important consideration. And I mean just having been there. That's not enough to say, well, I've served time here. But what have you done with the time you've served, in a sense? Where have your priorities been? What have you accomplished? What have you been able to get done? So I think all of us recognize that no one party decides all these things. There are moments clearly when I wish everyone would just listen to me and do exactly what I want them to do. But the fact of the matter is, in this system of governance of ours, it is the most inefficient, slow, exasperating system. Because the founders were not just interested in what we did, but how we did things was as important to them. And I think we lose sight of that from time to time, and it can be exasperating, believe me. When you're sitting there trying to get something done, and you have to wade through 534 other members of Congress, not to mention an executive branch and a court that may uphold what you're doing here, it is exasperating to try and get things accomplished. But when I get most exasperated, most impatient with it all, I remember that it's important about how we do things as well. Too often I think that's forgotten. And that's what's happened, in a sense, over these last 6 years here. The the best possible light you can put on this administration is that they're somehow trying to get something done. And of course, in the process, as I said a moment ago, they're assaulting everything we stand for. There are those, unfortunately, who are succumbing to this argument, and not just Republicans or neocons. The idea that in order for us to be safer as a people, we have to give up rights. Here, Benjamin Franklin, some 200 years ago, coined it pretty well when he said, those who would sacrifice liberty for security deserve neither security nor liberty, in a sense. And as true as that statement was more than 2 centuries ago, it is just as true today. In fact, I should have known this earlier, being supposed to be a good candidate in Iowa. The motto of the state here sort of says it all when it comes to the question of liberties and rights. Liberties we prize, rights we will maintain. The words to that effect, I think, is the state motto. Goes right to the heart of what we're talking about in a way, and that is that we're only going to be safer and more secure. When you take an oath of office, here it isn't to protect the country or defend the Constitution. Here it is the same point. We protect the country by defending the Constitution and by standing up for these rights. Here and understanding what you could do over the years, or have done over the years to make that difference. And the idea that you're going to have to work with people you don't necessarily agree with. And that's the point I think I made the last visit here, but I continue to make it here. Over the last 26 years, I've been able to get a lot done on a variety of issues, particularly with children and families. Latin America, many of you know I served in the Peace Corps in Latin America in the 1960s, in the Dominican Republic. I've either chaired the committee or been responsible for it over the last 25 years. I speak fluent Spanish. I chaired the committee, the interparliamentary meeting with Mexico for the last 20 years. Brother Tom was our ambassador in Costa Rica and Uruguay, and still teaches at Georgetown at the Foreign Service School on Latin American history and diplomacy. And over the years, have worked very hard to achieve the kind of results that we're looking for on those questions as well. And the idea of bringing people together has been critical. There's been family and medical leave, or Head Start programs, or development issues, premature births, autism, after-school programs, all of these things that I've brought Democrats and Republicans to try and create the kind of change in the areas I've assumed responsibility for. And that's what's missing in all of this. Here, not only to win elections, you have to appeal to not only your own party, but to others as well, but to govern requires that. The ability to bring Democrats and Republicans, along with others, to some common ground to achieve what all of us want to see, and that is progress in our country and reestablishing our moral authority around the world. I'll just end on a couple of notes, and I'd much rather open the floor and entertain your questions and ideas. Many of you know I published a book this summer called Letters from Nuremberg. My father was the prosecutor of the Nuremberg trials. I was a year old when we went away and spent that 14 months prosecuting the 21 defendants in the first trial at Nuremberg, Germany. He was also only over 2 weeks as an interrogator. He had been a prosecutor in the Justice Department in the 1930s. He had prosecuted, actually I discovered the other day, I didn't realize this, he died so many years ago, that he actually won a case against the Ku Klux Klan in Greenville, South Carolina in 1940 that I never knew about. And he and my mother were escorted out of the state of Arkansas and won a civil rights case in 1938 as well, and was a very good prosecutor, and was asked to go to Nuremberg here. And that was no small feat here. Nuremberg was not a popular idea at the trial. Why would you possibly give 21 defendants, some of the worst violators of human rights in history, why would you give them a trial? 55 million people died at their hands, 6 million Jews, 5 million others were incinerated because of what these thugs had done. Why would you waste the time, the effort, and the money to assemble prosecutorial teams from 4 countries, defense lawyers for 21 people who didn't deserve it, in the eyes of many, not to mention all the effort and cost associated with this, and the immediate aftermath of the war? Why not just do what Winston Churchill wanted to do and summarily execute all 21? Line them up and kill them here. The Soviets were a bit more progressive about the idea. They wanted a show trial for a week and then shoot them all. But Robert Jackson and Supreme Court Justice Henry Stimson, the only Republican in Roosevelt's cabinet, was Secretary of War, was the leading advocate of the trials. My father, Sam Rosamond, was a great speechwriter for Roosevelt, argued very strenuously for the idea that this conflict had not been over territory. It had been over values and principles. And if we succumb to the vengeance, the temptation to that, then we'd be doing little better than those that we had defeated, where the antithetical ideas of civility and the rule of law were so important. And so the Nuremberg trials succeeded. The letters are wonderful because, first of all, they're great letters. I mean, they're just the art of writing the letters. You want to read just